Nitin sir, good afternoon, Nitin sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, can we wait for another 2 minutes so that others can join us?
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Please don't mind. Thank you, sir. So good afternoon, one and all. Uh, now, uh, I welcome you back for session 3 on day 3. Uh, Now we have with us Dr. Nitin Varma. So he will be discussing on decision 3, the innovation process. I welcome Dr. Nitin Varma again for this session. It's over to Dr. Nitin Varma, sir. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to share my slides now, and we'll do a quick check. Once I do that, you're able to see my slides. Just give me 1 second.
Yes, sir. We can see the slides, sir.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, thank you for the confirmation and welcome back to the afternoon session of this FDP on design thinking, in which we are talking about the third way of innovation. And this is where we are. Okay, today is 20th Jan, decision 3 is what we're going to talk about. And this is where we are. Okay, so while we get started, By now, you know my methodology of doing things. I always, want us to see things first, have a good idea of what the practical thing is, and then I want to go into theory. So accordingly, um, I'm going to start a video now, and I would like all of us to watch this video. In just 1 second, I'll be sharing that tab. Okay, here we go.
Uh, Nitin Varma, sir,
Yes,
uh, are you sharing any video?
yes, yes.
Sir, video is not available. Please, you have to present it from your side.
Okay, okay. Oh, I shared it. It showed me it is sharing, and then I think something happened. No worries. Is the screen visible now?
Yes, sir, it is visible now.
Okay, good. Please don't try this at home. Okay, that was one, and then I want us to watch this one.
Arbitrator also awarded Valve over $2 million.
This one I'm going to speed up a bit. I will share the link. You guys can watch it in your own time also, but we'll watch it together at a slightly faster pace. I am going to put the link there in the chat window.
Hey everybody, from Half-Life to Counter-Strike, Left 4 Dead, and Steam, the Valve Corporation is one of the most successful video game companies in the industry today. My name is Jen, and here at the leaderboard, we're going to be giving you the complete history of Valve. Well, as complete as whenever this video is released. Just Half-Life go first. It all started on November 3rd, 1962, where the future co-founder and director of the Valve Corporation, Gabe Logan Newell, was born. In 1983, Gabe dropped out of Harvard University to work for Microsoft for the next 13 years. On August 24th, 1996, Valve was formed in Kirkland, Washington, by Gabe Newell and Mike Hunt. Fun fact, the formation papers were signed on the same day as Gabe's wedding. Also in 1996, the Quake engine license is acquired from ID Software, thanks to Michael LaBrush. Production commences.
Hello.
Your voice is quite audible, sir. But
Yeah, Pankaj Azhar, please don't mute the video. Please unmute the video.
sir, double sound is coming from the video. Please check it again.
Yeah, but if you mute this, then nobody will be able to listen,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So please mute your thing or put on the headsets, because otherwise nobody will be able to hear. Yeah, Pankaj, can you please unmute?
Can we see this video from start? Please start this video from beginning, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'm starting the video as requested by someone. I'm
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
starting this from the beginning. And just everybody, please make sure your mic is muted. Then
Yes,
this
sir.
sound will not
Done.
ring here. Okay. And I am also on mute now.
Sir, audio of the video is not available, sir. Audio of the video is not available. But video is available.
Yeah, see, I got the notification that I said the name of the person also, right? So it was muted the presentation. Unless they unmute,
Mhm.
it won't go back because somebody has taken the control. So not from my side. From my side, this is unmuted.
Here at the leaderboard, we're going to be giving you the complete history of Valve. Well, as complete as whenever this video is released.
So hopefully the audio is fine now. And I'm going on mute now.
It all started on November 3rd, 1962, where the future co-founder and director of the Valve Corporation, Gabe Logan Newell, was born. In 1983, Gabe dropped out of Harvard University to work for Microsoft for the next 13 years. On August 24th, 1996, Valve is formed in Kirkland, Washington, by Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington. Fun fact, the formation papers are signed on the same day as Gabe's wedding. Also in 1996, the Quake engine license is acquired from ID Software, thanks to Michael Abrash, and production commences on the soon-to-be-known Half-Life, thanks to the Washington-based Sierra Online publisher. Also in 1996, production commences on Valve's second game, Prospero, which was to emphasize exploration and intricate storyline in combat. Also in 1996, Valve recruits and hires 2 game teams, including the first international employee from the UK. In 1997, Gabe promises that if Half-Life becomes the #1 selling game, the company will take everyone on vacation. However, after internal review, Half-Life was deemed not good enough to ship, and the team returns to the drawing board and essentially starts over. Also in 1997, Prospero is permanently shelved, only a year after starting the production. In May of 1998, Team Fortress Software is acquired. Valve's ulterior motive in buying Team Fortress was to develop a sequel, but like many of Valve's releases, the game wouldn't come to fruition right away. On November 1st, 1998, Half-Life Day 1, the original demo is released. The demo is bundled with the Voodoo Banshee graphics card, and it circulates far beyond the original intended audience, and Valve realizes the level of anticipation for the full game. On November 8th, 1998, Half-Life is finally released for Microsoft Windows, and following a certain Black Mesa incident, the world is never the same again. Also in 1998, Valve takes its first company vacation to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, with 30 employees and 0 children. In 1999, Valve started to establish a pattern of supporting the best mods and occasionally acquiring them. On February 12th, 1999, Half-Life Uplink was released for Microsoft Windows. It was a demo for Half-Life which included the levels and areas not present in the full game. On April 7th, Team Fortress Classic is released, which was effectively the same mod redone in Half-Life skin. On November 1st, 1999, Half-Life Opposing Force is unleashed. This is the first expansion pack for Half-Life, and it follows the events in Black Mesa from the viewpoint of an invading soldier. Half-Life Opposing Force was developed by Gearbox Software, which went on to become the Borderlands developers. In 2000, Valve Software announced the Power Play project, which was a technological initiative headed by Valve and Cisco Systems to decrease the latency for online computer games. On January 15th, Mike Harrington dissolved his partnership with Gabe Newell, leaving Newell as the sole head of Valve Corporation. On November 1st, 2000, Ricochet is released, which is a multiplayer mod of the first-person shooter Half-Life. On November 8th, Counter-Strike is released, which was developed by Min Lee and Jess Cliff. The tactical shooter was first released in beta form in 1999 and gained a sizable audience right away. Valve took note, hired the 2 devs, and released Counter-Strike 1.0 in an official capacity a year later. In 2001, Counter-Strike soon becomes the #1 premier online action game, even over the most popular multiplayer first-person shooter games like Halo or Call of Duty. On June 1st, Half-Life Deathmatch Classic is released, and on June 12th, Half-Life Blue Shift is released, which was developed by Gearbox Software. Half-Life 2 Blue Shift is the second expansion pack for Half-Life. On November 14th, 2001, Half-Life was ported to the PlayStation 2, along with the cooperative game Half-Life Decay. Also in the year 2001, the Power Play project is quietly abandoned. In 2002, Valve outgrows its original Kirkland office and moves to downtown Bellevue, Washington. Also in the 2002 Game Developers Conference, Steam is announced. Valve Steam offers to third parties its new suite of tools and services, which it originally built to service its own games like Half-Life and Counter-Strike. Also in the year 2002, Valve aggressively addresses the issue of rampant online cheating with the Valve Anti-Cheat System. Between 2002 and 2005, Valve was heavily involved in a complex legal showdown with its publisher, Vivendi Universal, under Vivendi's brand Sierra Entertainment. It officially began on August 14, 2002, when Valve sued Sierra for copyright infringement, alleging that the publisher illegally distributed copies of their games to internet cafes. Valve later added claims of breach of contract, accusing the publisher of withholding royalties and delaying the release of Counter-Strike Condition Zero until after the holiday season. Vivendi fought back, saying that Gabe Newell and the marketing director Doug Lombardi had misrepresented Valve's position in meetings with their publisher. Vivendi later countersued, claiming that Valve's Steam content distribution system attempted to circumvent their publishing agreement, and Vivendi sought intellectual property rights to Half-Life and a ruling preventing Valve from using Steam to distribute Half-Life 2. In April 2003, Valve dropped the LLC from its title and became simply Valve Corporation. On May 1st, 2003, Day of Defeat is released, which is a World War II-based multiplayer shooter mod of the original Half-Life with full support of Valve. On September 12, 2003, Steam is finally released. It was first positioned as a simple digital distribution service whose main purpose was to deliver patches and other updates to online games more easily. More than a few of Valve loyalists, however, weren't happy with Steam's online authentication, game launching, and digital right management requirements. On November 18, 2003, Valve's first official Xbox title is released, Counter-Strike. Also in 2003, a thief infiltrated Valve's network to steal and disperse the Half-Life 2 source code, which was still in production at the time. On March 20th, 2004, Counter-Strike Condition Zero is released. On June 1st, 2004, the Source engine is finally unveiled through Half-Life Source. The Source engine brought the usual but nonetheless impressive upgrades: better lighting, more realistic physics, smoother graphics, etc. And Source has powered every Valve game since 2004. And since Source is free to the public, it's been used by thousands of modders who've made games out of Valve's releases over the past decade. Some of those mods, like Dear Esther or the Stanley Parable, have gone on to achieve notable successes of their own. On October 7th, Counter-Strike Source is released. And finally, on November 16th, Half-Life 2 is released. Half-Life 2 was the first game available through both Steam and in retail locations, and Half-Life also becomes Valve's second Xbox title, wowing audiences and critics alike with its looks, atmosphere, and inventive combat. When the dust settled after the big launch, the same post-launch flurry of mods and expansions that followed Half-Life 1 followed Half-Life 2. The most successful of those mods was a simply named sandbox tool called Gary's Mod, which has since made more than 22 million in sales and has been behind a large number of machinima-style videos. On November 29, 2004, Judge Thomas Samuel Zilli ruled in favor of the Valve Corporation in the Valve versus Vivendi lawsuit. Specifically, the ruling stated that Vivendi Universal and its affiliates, including Sierra Entertainment, were not authorized to distribute Valve games, either directly or indirectly. On December 1, 2004, that multiplayer component to Half-Life 2 was released, called Half-Life 2 Deathmatch. On September 26, 2005, Day of Defeat Source is released. And on October 27, 2005, Half-Life 2 Lost Coast is released, which is a promotional tech demo showcasing the high dynamic range lighting capabilities of the Source engine. On July 2nd, Half-Life Deathmatch Source is released, which is the multiplayer component ported into the Source engine. On November 15, 2005, Half-Life 2 is released for Xbox. Also in 2005, Valve hires 6 students from the DigiPen Institute of Technology after seeing their demo of the game Narbacular drop. The first third-party games were released on Steam in 2005. This was a landmark in digital distribution. Steam gives PC developers an alternative to retail for their games. The platform soon became profitable, and those profits only increased as more and more publishers and PC gamers turned towards digital distribution. Also in 2005, Valve posted on the Steam website that the two companies, Valve and Vivendi Universal, had come to a settlement in court. Electronic Arts announced that they would be teaming up with Valve in a multi-year deal to distribute their games, replacing Vivendi Universal from then onwards. As a result of the trial, the arbitrator also awarded Valve over $2 million. On June 1st, 2006, Half-Life 2 Episode 1 is released, which is Valve's first experiment in episodic storytelling. It's the first installment in a planned trilogy of sequels to Half-Life 2. Team Fortress 2 is revealed at E3 2006, and the new cartoony look does not go over well. Also in 2006, California-based developer named Turtle Rock Studios announced that it would use the Source engine to create a new zombie-themed survival game called Left 4 Dead. On October 10th, 2007, the Orange Box is released. The Orange Box contained 2 previously released titles and 3 new products. Team Fortress 2 was the long-awaited sequel to the classic multiplayer game Team Fortress 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 1 and 2, which was raising the bar for emotional storytelling, and Portal, hailed worldwide as an instant classic. Every game in the Orange Box collection was well received, but in particular praise went to Portal. It was a masterclass of game design and something legitimately unique in the gaming market, and many people now consider it to be one of the greatest accomplishments of the medium. The Orange Box launched on Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Microsoft Windows, and Steam, which helps bring Valve's catalog to an even wider audience than before. Also in 2007, Steam Community is released with the first wave of features designed to help friends connect and socialize via the Steam platform. In 2007, Steam reached 15 million active users playing over 200 games.
On January 10, 2008, Valve acquired Turtle Rock Studios with the explicit purpose of finishing and releasing Left 4 Dead. And on November 18th, Left 4 Dead is finally released. Left 4 Dead launched on Steam, Microsoft Windows, and Xbox 360. It only had 4 levels to start, but each was dictated by an adaptive AI that changed item spawns, music cues, and zombie types each time you played it. It didn't have much on a written narrative beyond survive and shoot zombies, but the gameplay could legitimately be called dynamic, and its co-op made it fun with friends. Like Portal, Left 4 Dead felt like something fresh, and it sold well and achieved widespread acclaim. Also in 2008, Steamworks is unveiled, making the business and technological tools of the Steam platform available to third-party developers free of charge. At this time, Steam hits over 20 million users and over 500 games. Also in 2008, Team Fortress 2 gets a major class update for the Medic, Pyro, and Heavy characters. These updates were delivered via Steam. In April 2009, Valve sued Activision Blizzard, which acquired Sierra Entertainment after a merger with its parent company, Vivendi Universal Games. Remember these guys? Activision had only paid Valve part of the award money, refusing to pay almost the $500,000, claiming it had overpaid that sum in the past years. At E3 2009, Valve surprised the community by revealing Left 4 Dead 2 early, pegging it to arrive in November of that year, and fans were not very happy. The backlash stemmed from Valve's earlier promise to continue to supporting the original Left 4 Dead with downloadable content and expansions after it launched. With a brand new title coming so soon, they thought the first game would be abandoned, and they'd have to plop down another $60 to get all the new content. Even close to 40,000 fans started to boycott the new Left 4 Dead 2 game on Steam, but as usual, things started to quiet down. Just 1 year after Left 4 Dead 1 is released, on November 17th, Left 4 Dead 2 is released. Pre-sale numbers are the biggest yet for any Valve game. Also in 2009, Steam ships its first downloadable content update for an indie game, The Maw. Steam Cloud is released, offering seamless online storage for any file types. Team Fortress 2 releases the Sniper vs. the Spy update, followed by Outright War. Also in 2009, Team Fortress 2 ships its first hat. What's your favorite hat? I'm curious. In 2009, Valve hired IceFrog, one of the leading guys behind World of Warcraft 3, Defense of Ancients, and sent him to work on creating a kind of, but not technically, sequel to the original project. On April 8th, 2010, Valve won the Escapist magazine's March Mayhem tournament for the best developer in 2010, beating out Zynga in the semifinals and BioWare in the final. Good job, Valve. In December 2010, Forms named Newell as a name you should know, mainly for his work on Steam, having partnerships with multiple major developers. Also in 2010, Valve moves to a more expansive location in Bellevue, Washington, and Valve announced that Steam and Source will be available for Macintosh and Linux. Steam got a much-needed user interface upgrade in 2010, and now you can shop for user-generated content in the Steam Workshop, buy non-gaming apps, check your profile from the Steam smartphone app, vouch for intriguing new titles on Steam Greenlight, and so much more. Valve also announced Portal 2 is going to be coming in just 1 year. In 2010, Valve began development for Dota 2, and Left 4 Dead received many expansions of its own, and could be considered an all-around success after Left 4 Dead 1. Shortly after Valve filed its trademark for Dota to secure the franchising rights for Dota 2, Dota All-Stars LLC, run by former contributors of the game's predecessor, Defense of the Ancients, filed an opposing trademark in August 2010. Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Deathmatch, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Counter-Strike Source, Half-Life 2 Episode 2, Team Fortress 2, Day of Defeat Source, Portal, Left 4 Dead, and Left 4 Dead 2 were all released for Macintosh in 2010 for the OS X system. On April 19, 2011, Portal 2 debuts with multiple platforms to critical acclaim. On Microsoft Windows, OS X, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Steam, Portal 2 fleshed out the original into a longer adventure and adding a co-op mode. It earned high praise once again and was notable for bringing special Steamworks support to its PlayStation 3 version, which is a surprising move since Newell had called the PS3 a total disaster 4 years earlier. On June 23, 2011, Team Fortress 2 goes free to play. In November 2011, Steam's service suffered a very bad hack. Newell has revealed that the intruders obtained access to a Steam database in addition to the forums, giving them access to information including usernames, passwords, game purchases, email addresses, billing addresses, and encrypted credit card information. In 2011, Dota 2 premiered at Gamescom in Cologne, Germany, with the first annual Dota 2 championship. In 2011, Dota All-Stars LLC was sold to Blizzard Entertainment, the developer of Dota's platform Warcraft 3 and its world editor in 2011. After the opposition was overruled in Valve's favor, Blizzard itself filed an opposition against Valve in November 2011, citing their license agreement with developers as well as their ownership of the Dota All-Stars LLC. On May 11, 2012, Blizzard and Valve announced that the dispute has been settled. Valve retained the rights to the term Dota commercially, while Blizzard reserved the rights for fans to use the trademark non-commercially, and changed the name of their StarCraft 2 map, Blizzard Dota, to Blizzard All-Stars. On August 1, 2012, Valve Corporation announced revisions to the Steam Subscriber Agreement, the SSA, to prohibit class action lawsuits by users against the service provider. Alongside these changes to the SSA, the company also declared publicly the incorporation of Valve, SARL, a subsidiary based in Luxembourg. On August 21, 2012, a modernized Counter-Strike dubbed Counter-Strike Global Offensive was released. In 2012, Valve's 44th International Hire clears immigration. In Q1 2012, the new employee handbook rolls hot off the presses. You can check out the handbook link in the description below. I totally recommend reading it. It's really funny. In 2012, Valve acquired Starfield Studios, a two-man gaming company, and opened a San Francisco office. This year, Valve also announced that they were working on a console PC hybrid for the living room that was unofficially dubbed by media as the Steambox. A precursor to such a unit is SteamOS, a freely available Linux-based operating system that builds upon the Steam client functionality that includes media services, live streaming across home networks, game sharing within families, and parental controls. In 2012, Valve heads to the big island of Hawaii for its 10th company vacation. Number of employees is 293, and number of children is 185. In July 2013, Dota 2 is formally launched. It was received well and it's earned itself a rabid, dedicated community of players. Also in July 2013, Valve officially announced Pipeline, an intern project consisting of 10 high school students working together to learn how to create video game content. In August 2013, the small two-man team out in San Francisco, their office was closed, Valve deciding that there was very little benefit coming from the arrangement. In September 2013, Steam OS is officially announced as the first of several announcements related to the Steam Machine platform, one of the announcements being a unique game controller. On October 17, 2013, the Blizzard All-Stars was adapted into a standalone game and renamed Heroes of the Storm. At the 2013 DICE Summit, Gabe Newell confirmed that he and director J.J. Abrams were collaborating to produce a Half-Life or Portal film, as well as a possible new game. Where is this game? Also this year, the following games were all released for Linux and OS X. In January 2014, Valve announced that it had surpassed 75 million active user accounts on Steam, and there are over 3,400 games available this year. In 2014, Half-Life 2 Shield Portable, Counter-Strike Global Offensive Company's own SteamOS-powered Steam machine, would be delayed until 2015 due to problems with the game controller. On March 3, 2015, Valve announced the Source 2 engine. March 15, 2015, Valve and HTC announced a joint project to develop Vive, a head-mounted virtual reality display. The companies are working with Google, Lionsgate, and HBO to develop content for the device. In 2015, the Steam Store is now the premier PC marketplace for AAA and indie games alike, and of course, it gives you those delicious Steam sales every now and again. All of this is to say that Steam's success snowballed into something that's now Valve's greatest asset. It serves tens of millions of users today and takes up enormous amounts of the PC market, and is only getting more robust as time goes on. Thank you for watching this video, guys. If you liked the video, let us know that you liked the video by hitting the like button.
Okay, so wow, what a ride. Do you think the company had a smooth ride? Does anyone think the company had a smooth ride? Yes, no? I mean, did you actually, yeah, thank you. Neil Kanteshwara, Swami, thank you. So, you know, when we read these stories about, this life of a CEO, the life of a strategist, the life of a marketing guy who's been with the company for so long, right? It all looks so nice. I mean, in hindsight, everything looks fabulous, right? But I wanted to bring this video to you to, share my, what do you say, experience. I've been through much of it. I was in corporate myself for a long time, for 20 years. So there's nothing called a steady life when you are trying to be aggressive, innovative, and you have to deal with partners and lawsuits and judges and damages and losses and crazy fans who go against you. But then, when you finally release your product, your game is a super duper hit, right? So we saw all of that happening. Imagine trying to act in this ecosystem, and what did they do? We'll look at all that. But before we go there, let me show you the Valve employee handbook. This is their employee handbook. It's actually a fun thing to watch. Or perhaps I'll keep this for the end, because we actually have a lot to cover. So I'll show this one to you at the end. Let's get back into our slides. Okay. So the question is, now you've actually seen what Valve is. So what is Valve?
Sorry to interrupt. Your screen is not, I mean, the PPT is not available to us, sir.
Yeah. I am actually going to share the tab now.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the feedback. That's good. That's the way. Actually, I was going to that Valve new employee handbook, and then I decided I think we'll first do the PPT, and then in the end, as we take questions, I will scroll through that. It's a fun thing to see. I mean, some of you might want to do it for your organization, your startup, whatever. I don't know. Okay, so the question is, how will you innovate, right? And that is what this session is about. We all looked at this video, Valve Corporation, and this was founded by Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington. And when they released this game, in fact, I was growing up at that time. I mean, I had grown up, and I was professionally growing up at that time. And I remember, playing this game at that time, and it was a super duper hit. We had never seen something like this before. And this company just did not stop with producing games. You heard what they did, right? And then now we're going to talk about it gradually, one by one. So instead of just producing good PC games, the company moved towards providing a gaming platform that supports development, marketing, and distribution of games. So I remember, there used to be these movie stores in the US, and I would walk in, and I would be looking at what to do this weekend, which video to watch, and whatever. And there was a section for games, and they would have like one or two columns of games in that store. I mean, how many games can you put there, right? Because it's a physical thing. They had DVDs there, so you would bring the DVD, play the game, and then return the DVD. That was the kind of thing. So, but how many could you put there? How many movies can you put there? Uh, Vis-a-vis, putting things on a cloud. How much can you put in one single store when you have like 500 locations to service, right? So this is what they realized, and they've innovated continuously, super duper innovative things they've done. So they realized that the one of the most frustrating part, in fact, the most frustrating part of the gaming experience was not about the game itself. There were a lot of good games, but the problem was what I just told you, shared my experience with you. Finding a good game, I had to pick up a DVD and bring it home. Which one should I take? And that deterred me from picking up a DVD, because why should I pick up a game DVD when there are 5 movie releases this week? So why not watch those? One of those. And that was safer because people were known, actors were known, the themes were known, and the plot was like, at least half out. So it was a much safer bet. So the games, so this is entertainment industry. Okay. I mean, we all have 2 eyes, and with these 2 eyes, you can either watch a game or you can watch a movie. You can either play a game or you can watch a movie. So if I lose you to the movie, I'm actually losing the game revenue, right? So I hope you, realize this. This wasn't there in this video because they obviously talked about Valve Corporation, but I hope we all realize this. This is the entertainment industry where you lose a pair of eyes to somebody else, even if it is a bandar ka tamasha, and you lost it. That revenue is gone. So it's like that. So they created this distribution channel called Steam, and you heard so much about Steam, and how they how many users, millions of users they started getting on Steam, and it has now become the biggest platform to buy and update games and so on and so forth, right? So they created that, and they offered it to not only their own game producers but also to other parties. And now it is like the Amazon of the gaming industry. Similarly, what they did with the in-game collectibles, which are like crowns and gems and this and that, and all those objects and characters that have special powers or characteristics. So even they, it's like IPL. I am Rohit, and you can sell my bat, right? So what they did was they said, okay, there is this character which has a super special power. That's auctioned. Okay, that's up for sale. You can own that character, and you can have the powers that go with that character. So they did amazing stuff. I mean, um, this was like setting the bar for others to follow, because when you realize this, when this company started and what they were doing, they were far, far ahead of the time. There was nobody thinking like them, nobody. And there, some of the collectibles, I have one note in my slide somewhere. It was sold for like, I think $25,000, something like that. Phenomenal. So that's the kind of craze they were able to develop in their heavy users. Remember we talked about heavy users before, and they were able to convert the low users into heavy users. I mean, I would have been one of the, by the way, the users for this, but then as things went on and as I matured, it's a normal cycle. You get out of games, and you're kind of done and dusted with these things. They partnered with the computer manufacturers. I mean, if you're a game manufacturer, imagine those computers. I mean, we are talking about faster graphic cards now. For the last 2 3 years, we've been talking about NVIDIA graphics and this and that. They needed graphics at that time, so they created their own operating system. Imagine, operating system. They partnered with hardware vendors, and they started selling customized PCs that were optimized for gaming. So this is the kind of work they've done. Each activity is so full of, efforts. It totally deserves all the praise they can get. And then they started creating their own controller, which would be customized for different types of gameplay, multiplayer games. Okay, and then they developed a game development environment called Source. You heard about Source? It has been there since 2004 or something. It's been free from that time, and they gave same set of tools. Imagine the same set of tools they gave to developers, which their own team uses in-house. No differentiation, no distinction, no biases. The same set of tools, exactly the same thing. So game developers were thrilled. They were like, wow, we're getting this for free, and this is what they use to make games. So why don't we get into this also? It's like, it reminded me of Apple, and how Apple created the app system, the apps ecosystem. Okay, because I was there at that time. I was in Fremont, and they were in Cupertino and California, US. And we used to talk about all these things, that Apple is trying to build an app system, and all the app system that you see, the Android Play Store that you see, this is a copy of what Apple did, and this is what this company was already doing at this time. Valve, giving away free tools for development already. So this is like, for me, it is in the league of Apple. So this belongs there. Okay. And then they developed Greenlight, a site where customers could view game trailers and vote which looked best and give feedback to developers. So remember, we were talking about, doing the best thing possible to service the needs of the customer. So how do you know? You know best when the customer himself or herself tells you that this is what I'm trying to do, and this is what your product is doing, and therefore, I'm satisfied or not satisfied, whatever, whichever way, right? So they created that uh, place where developers and their end users could interact and get feedback, because then when they go live, they already have the critical feedback needed to be successful. So just imagine the kind of innovation they put in into so many things. Then they created early access. Early access is a site which allows early versions of games to be released to users who are testers, okay, who are primarily testers, and then these testers provide feedback. Then they created something called a Steam workshop that allows developers to open up their games to customer generated mods or modifications, and incorporates ideas from those mods into the games. So I will talk about this in one of the slides. I will actually provide you an example of what is a mod. I'll share with you. It is there. It's a beautiful concept. So, for example, just to briefly mention it here, let's say you have a professor, teaching a class, right? Which is a human body, right? So instead, you want to put in a turtle, okay, with a cap and goggles or something. It depends on whatever your imagination is, and you want to put that in the class instead of the professor. So that's called a mod. Okay, so customer generated mod. So they went into that level where they said, okay, we are willing to take the risk. If there is a customer who wants to generate a mod, go ahead, do it. Insert your things, your mods into those games. And I have a specific example. I'll talk about it later. So to help publicize games, they created what is called the Movie Maker, a tool that lets game developers and players make movies, illustrating the entertaining parts of their favorite games. So, it's like the highlights or the trailer kind of thing, So they created this, and all of these Source, Greenlight, Early Access, Workshop, and Movie Maker are free to members of the Steam community. And some of you could, if you have interest in game design, you could actually, check it out yourself. So with steps like these, Valve has been able to expand its key product, around that, not just the key product. It's been the key product has now grown, right? And it is very much focused on serving what are its key customers? Serious gamers. So only serious gamers would get into all this, right? So they are very, very aware. They have mapped out the contexts and they have done all the homework, and they are thinking far ahead of the time. They are innovating in every single aspect of the gaming experience. So what is the process? If you ask, well, the process is very simple. It has like three basic steps to speak in the shortest manner. One, generate a portfolio of ideas for complementary innovations. We talked about this in the previous session. Narrow that portfolio by applying to each idea some specific filter that will be described, okay, soon. And finally, use experiments to boost the complementary innovations you will actually deliver. Okay, so this is a very simple process. No big science here. So one is where is the list of ideas. Second, let's apply some filters. Third, let's do some experiments and see which one is the best. That's all. Okay, simply put. But look at what this company. I mean, I've already shared the video and you watched it. What has this company been through? What do these three things mean in real life, right? And Valve has profited immensely by practicing this way, the third way. Its employees understand at a very deep level the customer context. These are people who are themselves very deep into customer context, and they have innovated in multiple ways to improve it. So the first thing that you always want to do is you can anytime go back to the previous session, which means to the analyst stage, and do a check on the customer context and figure out what are the complementary innovations which can be deployed along with the key product. And when you have analyzed that customer context properly, you mapped out, then only can you think about innovating. Okay. So one of the approaches which I found, again, very interesting to share, is called Kickbox. And I will take you to the link also there. Um, Kickbox is an approach to corporate innovation which was developed and is used by a company called Adobe. Now, most of them know Adobe, PDF, thanks to PDF, right? Portable document format. And it is also available online. You can go to this link yourself, or I will quickly just let me see if I have the link alive. Yeah, so you can actually go to this link on your own. Okay, let me see. Okay, can you see this tab? Okay, can you see this tab now? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Now
okay. So I will leave it here. You can go through the details because I will run you over what this methodology is and what it does. But I just wanted to show you this website. You can actually go to this and figure out and see what you can learn more from this one. Okay. So going back to the slides, because we have to, we have a lot to do here. Okay, so what is Kickbox? Kickbox is based on the central belief that innovation can come from anywhere in the organization. Remember, we talked about it in the first session also, that there has to be communication to everyone. And, we talked about what kind of communication it should be and what it should entail so that everybody is ready for the third way. So what it is a red box, okay, which contains all the material an employee needs to flesh out an innovative idea, to validate it with field research, and to report back the results. So there is this red box they give you, okay, and this red box it contains everything that you need to test your idea, to test your innovation, to validate it, to do field research, and bring back the results. The best thing is that Adobe, any employee can request and will receive a Kickbox. Anyone, you may have joined tomorrow and you can request it day after. You will get it. Okay. So all that you need to do is take a 2-hour training which covers how to use the material and reviews the kind of projects, the technology areas and market segments that would benefit Adobe. So they just want you to be oriented to the goals of the company. Remember, I talked about the brand and the message. They have to be coherent, they have to be aligned. So that's what this 2 hours training is about. Basically, how to use the materials in a way, and how to review the projects, and where it will benefit Adobe if there is work in those areas. Okay, so this box also contains a $1,000 prepaid credit card that the innovator can use to explore and validate their idea. Now, Adobe considers the money is to be an essential part of the approach. That has to be given, and they always give it. There is no application and approval process. Okay, and every recipient is free to explore any idea that is relevant to the strategy of the company. Well, you have to justify where your idea is going to fit in the strategy of the company. And when the recipient has completed the 6-step kickbox process, they report to the Adobe management what they have explored, the market data that was generated, and the recommendation for next steps, if there is any. The best thing you can say is no one is punished in any way if the results are negative or even useless. They don't care. Now, what are the benefits of this kind of approach for Adobe? Well, first benefit, of course, is that in this approach, there are definitely some ideas that are worth pursuing. Okay, and they don't actually, the company does not tell us, the company does not disclose which idea they are adopting and which idea worked or which idea did not work. They don't disclose this. Okay. Secondly, the company views the whole process as a very effective training tool for innovation and actually orientation to the organization. See, when somebody watches that video, okay, so the least that will happen to that person is that now that person will get aligned to Adobe's strategy. They will understand every aspect, or those aspects of strategy that are important for an employee to understand for innovation. Okay, and the employee will understand the strategic priorities of Adobe. So these are the benefits. Okay, and definitely what happens is that this increases the range and quantity of innovative ideas available to choose from for Adobe. And this can help innovation tools and techniques, because now whoever has opened that red box is also exposed to how to proceed on the path for innovation, right? So now this person is trained for innovation. So that's a great win for the company. Even if this one failed or didn't work out, perhaps second time this person will succeed. And this person is now already trained for success. So this is what they get out of Kickbox. Now there are 4 C's which are very important for innovation. Okay, how do you test those ideas? So these 4 C's are to be tested in 2 ways. Okay, and let me see. Yeah, here. So these are the 4 C's. Constrain. How crucial is the innovation to delivery of your promise? Okay, so have that constraint. Okay, remember your promise. Don't just start firing left, right, center on any idea that you get. So that is a constraint. Your how crucial is the innovation to delivery of your promise? Okay, so either the innovation helps fulfill the promise or it's out. Out means it is not to be taken. Okay, so this is the test. Connect. How will the innovation link to the key product and other complementary innovations? I mean, is this idea linked to something which relates to the key product? And does it, even if it is not directly connected to the key product, does it at least connect to the other complementary innovations? Because if it does not, obviously, we are talking of something totally different. And that will entail huge expenses, resources, and all that without focus. So it may be a great idea, but it will not fit in this framework. Okay. And there are other ways of innovation. So it's not that great idea will be discarded because it does not fit here. There are other frameworks which can be used to evaluate such ideas, but it will not fit here. That's the point of connect. Now control. So how will you manage the innovation? Okay. And then complete. Complete means how does it look over the complete cycle? Does it complete the offering? Is it doable? And all other aspects. Okay. So these four C's are very important and they must be applied to that list of potential innovations that can be carried out. Okay. Constrain, connect, control, and complete. So how to use these forces? There are two ways at least. First is to remove the ideas that seemed great when they were suggested, but don't actually qualify these four C's. Okay, so you can weed out those ideas which don't meet the four C criteria. Second is to assess the attractiveness of those ideas that seem to qualify, but there is a differing degree of risk present in all of those ideas. Each idea has a different amount of risk. If I say, okay, give me a PC that follows me from room to room, okay, what if the PC falls? Is it sturdy enough, right? And how will the PC know whom to follow, right? So there are different amounts of risk associated with different types of innovations, and these risks entail from product damage to material damage to financial risk to human risk, wherein they can cause an injury to the human being and so on and so forth, or loss of control and so on. So all that is beyond the scope of this discussion, but just to give you a primer on that. So there are different types of risks. Okay. So the second use of the four C's is to test the attractiveness of those ideas that seem to qualify, but what are the risks involved? Okay. Now you must be noting one thing, okay, by now that we have not talked about attractiveness of the innovation. What is attractiveness of the innovation? Innovation attractiveness regarding generation of profits for the company. So we are totally keeping that aside. Why? Because we understand by now that what matters is the overall profitability of the system, the key product and the complementary innovations around it. As long as they together can give us the profit that we are seeking as an organization, then that's a done deal. That's a great deal for us. Even if one or two components are not able to deliver profitability by themselves as standalone products, but as long as they are connected, that's why the four C's, right? So as long as they are connected to others which are overall yielding profit, that is fine. Now sometimes, as we already talked about in the first session also, an innovation will lose money, but it plays an essential role in making the whole portfolio more profitable. So we have discussed this ample times. Okay. And many marketing expenses have to be carried out, even if they are costly expenses, but they eventually lead to a greater brand image, they lead to greater brand recall, and therefore they ensure greater success. So some of these activities still have to carry out. That is why we are not looking at the ability of innovation to generate profits for the company in these in these tests. Okay, so this is a sample complementary innovation matrix for an insurance company called USAA, and as you can see on the x-axis, complexity and uncertainty of integration is a parameter, and it goes from low to high. Okay, so on the x-axis, left hand side, low means low complexity and low uncertainty of integration. The right side, high means high complexity and high uncertainty of integration. On the y-axis, you have importance to delivery of business promise. Because remember, whatever we may do, ultimately it must stick to the business promise, or it must contribute and be part of the business promise. So again, low to high. Low means something which is of low importance for delivering on the business promise. High means something which is of high importance for delivering on the business promise. So when you have this x and y axis with these parameters, okay. So when you look at low on x and low on y, okay, many partners or open market. So this was their way of doing it, and this is a very good way to understand, what you can achieve in what timeline, and especially in the world of software, how you can do your release management, version management. Okay, so low means that this is of low priority for business promise, and this is low complexity, even though it is of low complexity. So, but it does not make much sense. Okay, so what we want is low complexity and uncertainty, but high importance to delivery of business promise. Okay, and we want to avoid high complexity and uncertainty, because even if it is of high importance, it will make your life hell. Okay, so this is the best position to be, low complexity and uncertainty of integration, and high importance of delivery to the business priority. So this brings us to what is, what qualifies, and therefore, what is called a minimum viable portfolio of complements, MVPC. Okay, so MVPC stands for minimum viable portfolio of complements. Now, companies that succeed, they normally tend to start small. Now, I mean, this is not that the usual gyan or wisdom ki, theek hai, you start small and then no. We are talking in a specific context about the MVPC. So the companies that are normally successful, they create a very small, minimum, tight portfolio of innovations, so that these innovations will together deliver the promise. They will take less time. As I already explained on the previous slide, there will be the least complexity, okay, and there will be the least integration challenges. So therefore, if I can add all these things to my product, then my product becomes a super hit. So that is of highest interest to the organization, and that is why companies who tend to start small on MVPC do very well, because they can actually attain those goals without too many expenses, without a heavy rush on their resources, and they are very focused. Now, this is easier said than done. So as with everything in life, the solution has a problem and the problem has a solution. So although this sounds good, finding the right set of complements is a Goldilocks problem. Okay, and you don't want to have too many and you don't want to have too few, because if you have too few, if you have too less of those in the MVPC, then after you have done everything, it will still not provide you the competitive advantage in the market compared to others, and people will not see you as distinct from others. So it's not viable, it doesn't make sense, it won't be attractive. If you have too much of it, then the problem is that you will have so much of it to do that you will never be able to most likely complete it in time. You will be frustrated with bringing out so many improvements. You will have so much mental pressure. Your team will crack. People will quit because of high pressure, and timelines, and eventually the entire project will be a waste, because even if you implement a few of those out of that huge bundle that you chose, okay, there may not be any alignment between them. They may not be connected, and they may not have the thickness of context that you need to succeed in the market. So this is why, for example, CarMax did not launch a mega store without availability of financing. Remember we talked about CarMax and automation. So whereas AutoNation, what they did was they were rather a cash-rich party, and what they did was they first set up megastore without tying up the other ends, and that's why they eventually lost out. But CarMax did not do that. They first made sure that they had all the viability options checked, so that if people did come to that megastore, they would be able to take benefit from that megastore. There would be value for them. There is this other example of iPod and iTunes, as we discussed in the morning. Okay, and you know about GoPro very well by now. Without its mounts and video editing software, how successful would it be, right? So, I mean, if you created the mounts but not the video editing software, or you created the video editing but not the video uploading software, and you would say, oh, the MVPC was too big, let's drop out this video uploading. Okay, so doesn't make it work, doesn't click. So that is why you have to be very, very careful in choosing the MVPC portfolio and then working on it, keeping it to the minimum. Now, it's very interesting that, today I am talking to you as an expert on innovation. Okay. So because of a certain background, I have that advantage, and therefore I can share this knowledge. But honestly speaking, there are what they have found out is that even experts can fail, and especially when compared to experiments and controlled experiments, as I will explain further. There was this company called Quarky. Okay, so Quarky is a company which says that it is a community-led invention platform. And now what that means is that there are inventors who go to this platform and they sell their ideas. Okay, now this idea can be about anything. It can be about office organizers, kitchen gadgets, or fitness accessories. So Quarky received hundreds of product ideas every week. Okay, and from those hundreds, it selected the best few to bring to the market. Now, about those best few, inventors received a share of the gross revenues from their products, and so all this was made public, and so it's a very transparent system. People can trust it. Innovators like to trust it. Innovators are making money, so it is awesome. Okay. Now, there was an experiment. There was a lot of research done with Quarky, and the Quarky staff, they have a lot of experience in product development, obviously, because they are trying to bring a platform for innovation, so they need to have that knowledge as well. And so what they did was, to each innovation, they assigned it a Quarky score, a numeric value which indicates the likelihood of success for that particular innovation. So the two researchers who hired outside experts, okay, like senior marketing people from Rubbermaid. Rubbermaid, I'm sure you know, is a very big brand for plastic products and rubber products. The Sharper Image, and some other consumer companies. These outside experts averaged 26 years of experience in their fields, 26 years of experience. And they added a third group of prognosticators, basically customers, or prospects who were shown the idea and asked, will you buy this? Okay. So now you have one set of experts, and on the other hand, you have these prognosticators or people or prospective customers who were just asked the question, will you buy this idea? Okay. Now, it turns out the best practice was to ask a few customers if they would buy the proposed product. The outside experts were pretty good, but the purchase decisions of random customers were generally as accurate in predicting success as were the ratings of the 7 experienced outside experts, each of who had 26 years of experience in the market as an expert. Okay. So the Quarky score itself, well, that score, the correlation was slightly negative. The Quarky score, actually turned out to be a negative, have actually turned out to have negative correlation with the success of the idea, because the Quarky score, which means that wrongly indicated which would be successful and which would be not. So eventually they concluded that Quarky would have been slightly better off taking the recommendations of its own internal experts and doing the opposite. Okay. So this is some very interesting study, so because just a few minutes back I talked about how difficult it is to choose your MVPC, right? And here, I mean, who do you normally count on? You count on experts, right? Internal experts, outside experts. In PhD, that is the normal terminology. We have inside experts, we have inside Viva, then we have outside experts or external experts, and we have outside Viva or whatever, right? So in research also, this is a prevalent terminology. But look at what was found, that if you go to an actual prognosticating customer, or prognosticate, which is a customer who's likely to have interest in the product, then that customer's um, prediction is far more accurate than anybody else. Now, the question that they were asked, okay, was not that will this product be a success, okay? Because if you ask some customer a question like this, do you think this will be a success? The customer is like, okay, how am I supposed to know? Because the customer starts thinking about everybody else in the world and how everybody else will respond. So any sensible customer, anybody who's mature enough and perhaps qualified to do your questionnaire, is of that qualified age, will never tell you that, okay, I think that this will be a success. Okay. I mean, yes, there are states of mind and there are countries and there are cultures where perhaps people will say, that, oh, I'm sure this will succeed. Well, how do you know about others, right? But the question that here they were asked was very specific. Will you buy this? Okay. So they were shown an idea and they said, listen, will you buy this? So that exactly, that single question gave them the best answers to predict the outcome. Okay. And so even the experts, were shocked to see, how this was turning out. And it goes to experts, so-called experts and managers in such organizations where innovation is important, to not try and predict, these things on their own. Okay. I mean, don't try to be the boss whose word is final about, success or failure of something. Let the customer decide, let the prognosticator decide. Show this to somebody who actually, would be paying money for that idea. Okay. And then choosing the right innovation is difficult enough when the product domain is familiar. Okay. The third way calls on leaders to make those crucial choices in new and unknown areas. Why? Because we talk about innovation, and innovation means nobody has done that before. Okay. So the best way is to create now. So how do you, so this brings us to some questions. So experts are there, and those protagonists are there, and so how do we actually, get closer to being accurate on our predictions for success, right? So there is something which is called prototypes, not prototype, prototypes. So you probably know what is a prototype. Does everyone know what is a prototype? Yes, no, chat window, please. If you can't, if you don't want to speak. Yes. So do you know what's a prototype? Okay, some people know, some people don't. Okay, so I'll talk about it. Okay, so a prototype is a preliminary working version of a product. For example, if I say prototype of a drone, then I'm talking of something which looks and feels and works like a drone. Okay, but which is not like finished, properly, and it has probably a few wires hanging out and other things and rough stuff, which makes it clear that this is not the finished commercial product, okay, aesthetically and even otherwise, okay, perhaps safety wise also. But a prototype is, it gets close in terms of the functionality of it, including safety. It gets close. It may not be exactly. Okay, so that is what a prototype is. It is working. It flies. It has wings. It has motors. It will not hit an obstacle in the way. So this is a prototype of the drone that we are planning to launch with perhaps a camera. But right now, okay, we don't have a camera. Okay, so that's a prototype. Now you can have a prototype with camera also, and then you can say we are trying to have a prototype with a camera for this drone, which will be able to take shots at the speed of 60 frames per second. Okay, so now again, that means that this is not perfect. This is a little away from perfection, but it is, perhaps it will be able to do 60 feet per second, 60 frames per second kind of photography. Okay, so that's what it means. Uh, but we are not talking about prototypes. What we are talking about is prototypes. And what is a prototype? A prototype, on the other hand, comes much earlier in the development process, whereas prototypes come almost close to the end of the development process. Okay, so before a decision to proceed has been made, before somebody says, okay, yes, go ahead and I'll give you all the money and I'll put my everything on this. A prototype is a rough and even crude simulation of the product or service, but it is good enough for a prospective customer to buy or don't buy, to decide on that, like that, buy or don't buy. So that's what is a prototype. So a, a dirty or a cheap or a jugaad type of thing, is called a Frankenstein prototype. Okay, we put together a few motors and some fans and whatever, and now this thing is flying. Okay, so it looks ugly, I mean, the wood is not cut properly, the fan blades are probably, it's like kinky or whatever, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is a Frankenstein prototype. Now an example of this is, there is something called a coin tower machine. Okay, so what's a coin tower machine? It's a machine in which you can actually put some kind of money, okay, coins, and it returns you currency. Okay, and or you can get other things also from it. I mean, so it has like so many formats. You can get a gift card, you can get something else, you can get something else like that. But it is that kind of machine where basically you put in some money and you get another form of value, either as something, a gift card or a whatever, okay, or currency if you have something else. So what this company did, Cointar, when they were trying to test this for gift cards, so what they did was they actually put a person inside a machine, you know, um, and when a customer pressed that button, okay, so this person was standing inside the machine. When that person presses the button, this person from inside actually hands out a card and says, "This is your gift card," and this person is inside the machine. Okay, so this is a very cheap, inexpensive prototype. Okay, or a prototype. Actually, prototype. Okay, there's a typo here. Um, is that? Yeah, it's a prototype. Okay. So with the fake door test, for example, you can again check the customer response very effectively. Now, what's a fake door? A fake door is basically something which draws you towards it. Let me give you an example, and you and I and everybody, as a matter of fact, whoever has an email ID is now getting tons of fake door email campaigns. Okay, we are subjected to those. So, for example, you will get an email, which says we are planning to offer this program on the use of big data in consumer product marketing. Sign up now. Okay, so there is nothing actually scheduled. There is no program like that. Okay, it is being designed I mean, the contents are there and the outline is there, but I mean, it's not actually really there. Okay, so only if enough people sign up, then it will be converted into an actual program. Then the course will be formally designed and offered. And if not, those who did try to sign up will be notified, that, hey, listen, too few people were signing up, so we are sorry, we are unable to run this course right now. Check us out another time. Okay, so there are these different techniques. Another technique is called imposter technique. There's another technique called Pinocchio technique, and so on and so forth. There are many techniques through which you can actually test very cheaply whether the customer will even bite your bait. Okay, biting your bait means it's like a fish. Okay, you put a bait on the hook, and whether the fish will bite it. Okay, so having said all that, and having tried different cost-effective measures in prototypes and Frankensteins and prototypes, and the imposter technique and the Pinocchio technique and so on and so forth, having tried all that, uh, ultimately it comes down to management. Okay, how is the management going to work this out? Because the management is going to be surprised as well. The management people, a lot of them, they'll say, oh, it's my word, I've been here for 25 years, I know this is going to work out like this, I know exactly how it is going to play out. Okay, and then they are totally caught by surprise. They're like, okay, oh, I didn't know that. Okay? So this is how it happens. But the problem with this approach is that if you have too many people in the management who are like that, then they will not even allow you to experiment properly. So that is why this ball comes into the court of the management, and the management needs to have a new avatar. Okay, so they need to have this so that when there is somebody around them trying to innovate through these processes that we're talking about, okay, they don't go and tell them, listen, I know what is it is going to be, don't try this. Okay, so they have to be open, receptive. Remember, we talked about transparency. Now, transparency is a single word that I talked about, but it has 10,000 billion implications. Just one word. If I ask you for transparency, or if you ask me for transparency, trust me, 99.99% of the issues are resolved. That's it. That's one thing you need to ask for. Okay, so in India we have a different kind of setup, where transparency is not really, I mean, yeah, there are things that top management does not like and all that. But if you are personally the innovator, and if you are doing this, in a place where there is a supportive management, then the management needs to have that open attitude. And hopefully tomorrow, when you grow and become part of the management somewhere, you should also encourage people to try, trust them, and let them develop, and get feedback, and let them improve what they're trying to do. Okay, so Valve does this through their early access program. And the thing is that management involved, that's why I wanted to show you the handbook. Okay, I mean, if you look at the handbook, you realize, oh my god, this must be a fun place to work. And it is, obviously, right? But this is where getting to innovation and getting innovation to work are two different things. We got to innovation through the first two sessions. We have almost come to the point where we have created a short list of ideas and innovations that we can implement. But this particular session that we're talking about is the toughest one, because it requires everyone in the organization to think alike. And you and I know how easy that is. So continuing on what management needs to do. Okay, so instead of tracking managers tomorrow when you grow up and you're in those positions, try to ask about what the learning has been about customers. What have you learned about the customer? Okay, what is the context that you've learned? Ask your juniors. Don't measure them by success हुआ कि नहीं हुआ, fail हो गया, ये हो गया. I mean, let's stop being judgmental. Okay, I told you there are no experts actually. Even I am not an expert. Even Bill Gates does not proclaim to be an expert. Okay, even the guys we've talked about today, all the CEOs, Sarah and Tim, and all these guys, we've talked about for different companies, Procter and Gamble, CarMax, this, that. Nobody claims, they're very humble people because they have gone through this process. They understand every single word. They know nobody's an expert. So let's, remember this as we try to bring this third way of innovation into our organizations, use prototypes, and encourage people to understand the context of the user. Okay. So to be constructive, yes, you can demand clarity about the goals and process. Remember, I said transparency just a few moments ago. So that's transparency. I want clarity. What are you trying to do and what is it going to give us? That's fine. So, second, limit the funds committed. Now, it sounds like, um, I'm trying to be, or this approach recommends being miserly. No. Why limit the funds? Because we are trying 10,000 things here. So I cannot put all the money on one thing because that will limit the money to just one approach we are trying, and it will kill the other approaches that we could have tried. Okay, so that's why I limit the funds committed. See, this English is a very tricky language. If you read this without me, you'll be like, oh my God, what a bad session. They were trying to tell the management and everyone that they should limit the funds. No, this is not limit the funds. This is limit the funds to one specific opportunity so that you can invest and have other things going as well, so that you can um, uh, allow more people to work on different opportunities at the same time. And then gradually, as progress happens, then as results warrant, you keep on investing more and more, give them the encouragement, so it's a very positive thing. This is not a negative thing. Okay. Then the next thing is if the tests, remember we talked about the tests, the 4 C's and other things. So if the tests raise basic questions about the promise or the key product, have the courage to face them. So because courage, remember, I've been emphasizing this word since the morning. This entire approach requires so much courage because it is not how we are used to doing innovation. And if at any time something goes wrong or something is not looking like as it was supposed to be, that's okay. It is all right. You have to stop there, ask a few questions, gather enough information, and make some courageous decisions, including, okay, let's drop this. It's not going to go our way. Okay. Then the next thing is the most difficult transition of all. After you have done all the first 3 steps above, the 4 keys, so the 3 keys, and after you've done everything, after it is telling you, listen, these are the best things to do, these are the innovations that are most likely to succeed, these are the results of the experiments. Please believe the results. Have faith. Now, this again is very easy to say because it so happens that things tire us out. We get fatigued with our daily work, with new responsibilities. Look at how this company was fighting, so many things. And Valve, right? Valve. It's a. You can write novels on the evolution of this company. You can write stories, books and pages and thousands of things, right? So these things tire out people. But please, because of this scientific approach that we have taken, you have to believe the results and say, yes, I'm going to go forward and actually try this. So this is one quick case study on Lego Ninjago. So I call it action replay, which basically means, how it happened and what happened. Okay. So it was very interesting when I read this. Lego is a children's toy maker, as we all know, right? Now they had designers who were like big people and mature people and in quotes experts like me and you. Okay, but what they did was recently they started involving children and they let children have the final go on product design. So what they did was um, they created mock-ups. Okay, they said, okay, we have to have creative designers at the headquarters, and we will create evocative sketches of the Lego minifigures, okay, or minifigs they call them. And these minifigures or minifigs will be placed in different adventures, such as a robo shark underwater, or a carnivorous plant in a jungle, some battle scene or something. And then the designer will gather a group of young children in a group, and they will show the sketches one at a time. Okay. And for each sketch or picture, they ask the kids to make up a story about what they are seeing in their picture. So guess what? The more stories a picture generates and the more excitement these stories arouse in the kids, the greater is the potential of that idea. So this is their way of uh, deciding upon what uh, qualifies as a successful idea. Okay. So to complement that toy, now Lego also commissioned a TV show, which is in the seventh season on the Cartoon Network. I'm sure you would have probably at least taken a glimpse of it. And they also have Ninjago stories on Nintendo and Xbox. They have graphic novels. Graphic novels here means novels which have cartoons and caricatures and all that. Okay, so which bring kids into the world of Ninjago, and they generate income as well as increased demand for the toys. So again, this is, look at this innovation in this age of electronic engagement. They are still into graphic novels. Okay. And because there are people, I mean, there are kids who still like to read. India is slightly off the curve. We are always far behind the US, but in the US, reading is coming back as a habit. Okay. I mean, it has reached a point where it is still there. It is not insignificant. And events at Lego stores invite kids to come in and compete with each other in what is called a spin jitsu. And I will show you quickly what is a spin jitsu. So the results have been that there have been smash hit toys. Kids have created things which other kids will love, and this is Lego's way of innovation. So, what are the key takeaways from this session? We are just about on time, 2 minutes beyond. So this is the last slide. Okay, and to evaluate the generated list of potential complementary innovations. Okay, on delivering the promise of the list, then use the quick prototypes and other techniques and ask prospective customers, will you buy this? Use your promise to guide the selection of a minimum viable portfolio of complementary innovations. For each innovation in that portfolio, select the internal or external partner you will use, and choose the arrangement that will allow you to manage each relationship most effectively. Then lastly, for management, supervising managers must learn new ways of imposing structure and discipline on the innovation process. This process still requires structure and discipline. Why? Because you have so many things going on, you have so much invested, you can't go wrong most of the time. In fact, you should be successful most of the times and going wrong a few times, just like the norm, right? So these are the key takeaways. Rigid processes will not work, and as I've already discussed, managers need to understand how to impose rigor and discipline on a rapidly iterating process, how to control funding and resource allocations. And yeah, now here I have two examples. I mentioned this. Okay. So there is a pink enduring war dog with an ethereal flame particle effect about sold for $38,000. Okay. So this is that thing I was telling you about. Valve gets a commission of 15% of that. So I mean, we have no idea why it is so valuable, but it is not free. And I talked about a mod. Okay, so there's a game called what is it called? Skyrim. So there's a medieval adventure game called Skyrim, and one creative user created a mod that replaced all the dragons with Thomas the Tank Engine. Okay, so these are things that people are doing with Valve because of their very high involvement and high usage. Okay, so this is all. 4:05 now, and I believe we are also done with the time that we had allocated for the session. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them now. If you want to think over and come back with any other questions tomorrow, that is fine too.
Sir, hello, sir.
Yes.
This is Murthy. Sir, you talked about prototype and prototype.
Yes.
So when to go for prototype and when to go for prototype? Because we usually, as design engineers, like in basic or conventional design, we use prototypes actually. We prepare the prototypes, then we test it, and then we finally, based on the results, evaluation of results, we'll go for the final product manufacturing. But
Right.
nowadays, all these computer-aided tools are available, and we virtually prepare the prototype. Okay, not physical one, and we do all kind of stress, strain, and thermal analysis. And based on the results, we do go for the final design. So that is what we are doing. So then, how this prototype is going to be used in the current conventional design?
Sure. See, even after you have done all, because I also do simulations with the software, okay, and including circuit design, and there are so many other softwares that I use. So when you have done that, even after that, there is a certain setup required if you want to show it to somebody like a commercial investor, right?
Okay.
So, so for them, you want it to be neat and clean and nice and well painted and this and that, because you are going to get money from them, right? So that's a stage where you can have a prototype. But when you are within the institute, if it is not really silver painted and if it is not really important to the function, that's okay. It can be gray painted, or you can leave it with the native color, right? So things like that, where you don't really have anything which affects, your investments or coming interest from such investors. I mean, there you can use a prototype.
Okay.
Yeah, because
for example, any exhibition and all there people will come, and there we can demonstrate the product through prototype.
Yes. So within your team, when you are starting and you get success with something, right? You can have a prototype, and then the prototype can evolve gradually, and then it is finally ready. It has all the parameters defined. So now you are ready to show it to somebody else. So now is the time to actually get into the stage of having a prototype.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Murthy. Yeah, Mr. Murthy, welcome. Anybody else? Any question? So I hope these sessions today, they have been informative. You should have picked up, I'm really hoping that you would have picked up a lot of terminology. You would have got exposed to these new concepts, the new tests and tools, and the way of thinking. And I've gone into a lot of detail about actual implementation and case studies. So I'm really hoping that these will empower you to at least start thinking in this direction. See, I mean, nobody can become an expert with one session or two, right? But at least if everyone starts thinking in this direction, at least all those who have an interest in innovation, and I mean, we are interested in innovation, that is why we are here, right? So hopefully it will put you on track for more, because you will have to dig deeper into so many other things as well, like I said, value chain and so many other things. So because innovation is not a one-off thing, innovation, and especially the way we are talking about, is deeper and wider, and it has different types of contexts involved. We've already discussed those. Okay. So yeah, any other question? Okay. So thank you for being a good audience, and for whatever interactivity we had, was nice. So I would like to hand over back to the organizers, and I will then see you tomorrow, because I have a session tomorrow morning. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. So before we wind up, we will just have a look what we had in the afternoon session. In the afternoon session, Sir Nitin Varma, sir, has showed an audiovisual presentation about the VAL, the gaming series, and he talked about how will you innovate. He talked about the kickbox and how to innovate the kickbox, and he talked in depth of C for innovation, 4C for innovation, which is a constraint, connect, control, and complete. Uh, and he talked about the first way and second way of testing it, and he talked about how to innovate the MVPC, and he talked about experiment versus experts. He talked intensively on Frankenstein prototype. This was new to us for us, uh, and he talked about making decisions, management, new avatar, and most the difficult transition of all is believe the results. So that was most inspiring talks from you, sir. So we have almost assimilated all your three sessions, which was in depth. Even though we are teachers, it was very difficult for you to take all the matters in one single day, and we are very thankful for your effort to put all the details in one single day stretch, and we can see how much you have contributed to make us understand in depth what is decision one, decision two, decision three. With this, on behalf of all our participants, on behalf of Department of Mechanical Engineering, on behalf of all our coordinators, I thank you very much wholeheartedly, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much for your thoughts, and I'm really enjoying interactions with everyone. I think we are all going in a very good direction as a learning audience, and it's very good. So we'll continue this. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, sir. We will meet once again tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Thank you very much once again, Samitin, sir. So, dear
You're welcome.
participants, we have already shared you the feedbacks and attendance form with you. Please update your attendance and feedback without any delay or failure, so that will be counted for your attendance. And I thank all the participants for being with us. So tomorrow we will start with Dr. Nitin Verma sir's presentation on decision for innovation delivery at 10 a.m. sharp. So I repeat once again, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. sharp. So thank you one and all.